Seeing it come to life in rehearsals, in the book, and even once it's sort of turned into a script, there's still lots that you're not sure how to do. But watching the directors and the actors and everybody else in the room, you sort of come together and work out how to do it and put it on its feet is really exciting. So yeah, seeing it come to life.
So the adaptation process for us, especially in costume, has been a lot about deciding what's necessary in the story and what isn't necessary, and kind of what helps the storytelling. Because our section is just very epic, a lot happens, there's a lot of locations, a lot of events, there's a lot of characters. Kind of a big part of costume adaptation, I think, has been discovering who needs a costume, who doesn't need a costume, what costume signifies in certain settings, how a costume can match with set and lighting to help create the settings.
So the adaptation, when looking through sound in particular, is just trying to find the sort of audio cues that you pick up from the book and the sort of soundscapes that you get from such a vast mythical world that has so many possibilities. So it has been a lot of experimenting with both sort of the ancient sound that the time period offers, but also something new that kind of gives it that sort of epic oomph. And so it's been a lot of experimenting and trying to try it out in rehearsal as much as possible.
Mainly we've been focusing on building like the idea of the ensemble and getting all of our actors to really listen to each other. We've been really interested in our theme of storytelling and how we can convey that to an audience.
I think playfulness has been a massive thing in our rehearsals, trying to keep that sort of the spontaneity and the responding to each other and listening to each other, particularly within the ensemble, but also just the room as a whole. You know, how do the designers respond to what's happening in the rehearsal? How do the actors respond to each other? How do we as directors respond to what the actors are offering?
At first, obviously our rehearsals were focused quite sort of thematically. Actors were looking at characters. I was sort of working with designers to develop senses of place. So we did a lot about talking about sort of the temperature of a place, the smell of a place, the feel of a place, how we could explore that through design. And then through the rehearsals, it's been really, really exciting to see the actors develop the piece, and just keeping in mind anything that they could incorporate. Really, so like a big thing is our use of the screen. So the actors are going to be interacting with it, standing behind it, sort of casting interesting shadows in it. So just sort of moving forward with the actors in that way.
So the design has kind of developed with sort of an idea of how sort of musically it could sound, but then in a sort of real sense in rehearsal, trying to mix that in with sound effects primarily and building up music up to that, and to really utilize music in the right moments rather than filling it in, and making it all feel reactive and trying to immerse the audience in with the experience. And with the lighting design, it's to emphasize the mythicalness and the epic nature of the story. One of my favorite lines within the story is that Odysseus is the Lord of Lies, and how he likes to embellish his tales with different characters and scenarios, and I wanted the lighting to be part of that story too, and be very crucial into creating these worlds that he's creating for us.
In terms of setting, is that it takes place over so many different settings that it's hard to have just one sort of established, tangible setting on stage, because it's very fluid. The story moves with a lot of sort of fluidity. So after discussing with the other designers, we decided that a design which framed lighting and, you know, really showcase lighting as a way to change setting would be really useful for us, in order to keep the sort of fluidity of the movement of the journey through the story. So with that in mind, I designed the set based off some of the themes that we'd developed and discussed during R&D. So the actors were exploring and talking a lot about the duality of Odysseus's character, how he's different when he talks, when he's telling his story, and then to how he is when he's sort of talking to his men, and what's real and what's false, and looking a lot at sort of interrogating Odysseus's character. And then obviously our section has the moment in Ithaca where Odysseus moves from being a narrator to, or rather Odysseus moves from narrating to the audience actually seeing the story play out as it really happens, rather than it being through Odysseus's eyes. So I wanted to create a set that was that was easy to light and that was provocative of the kind of interrogation of Odysseus's character, I guess, and then also bringing together elements of the natural setting of the play. So rocks was a big inspiration, as well as waves, but we sort of see that a bit with the floor of the design as well.
So again, because we have such an epic bit, there has been a lot for costume design. We have these really interesting, amazing settings. So we have the underworld, we have the island of Circe, we've got Ithaca, and kind of a big part of the costume has been how can we create a contrast between these, how can we really define each element. So we've got the dead, which I mean you'll see, but it's very, very different to kind of the costumes of Ithaca, which deliberately we want to feel very homely, very cosy, very much like Odysseus has come home, and it's lovely. And then the gods, because we have Hermes and Athena in our bit as well. A big bit of that has been how can we differentiate the gods, so we've been using gold, seeing how we can incorporate armour as well, because the Trojan War is obviously such a big thing on the story. So figuring out how armour can be incorporated into both the ensemble and Athena's costume. So there's kind of like a mishmash of really like soft, natural lines with kind of this harsh contrast of armour going on throughout.
So the way that we sort of worked through the adaptation process was that everybody had a small section of it, and we sort of we put all that together and then highlighted the events that we needed to tell the story of Odysseus trying to get home, which meant that we could then identify what didn't need to be there in order to tell that story and what was essential to do that. And so we're sort of collating those things together and working and going back to the text and putting all those moments together in a way that was coherent, but still exciting. So that it's sort of a mix of sort of pragmatically working through it, but also making sure that it's theatrical and has opportunities for being creative.
My favourite part is the dead, because I think it's got some wonderful stage imagery. I think it's really emotionally engaging, and I think it's the apex of our story that we want to tell.
It's either the Cyclops, because that's quite fun in that Odysseus is just a real sort of clever trickster, but also so up himself, and that he makes himself all the more problems because he's just being cocky. So that's fun, and then also like making the Cyclops through sound, and like the actors all sort of like gathering together to kill the Cyclops. But I think the most interesting bit for me is definitely the dead. So that's sort of from book 11. And it's when Odysseus goes into the underworld and he meets his mother. So there's this like really interesting opportunity with like ritual and creating this really cool atmosphere of the underworld, and then this really touching moment between mother and son, which is, we're rehearsing it right now because it's so exciting. That's my favourite bit.
I am most excited about seeing the costumes in the space with the lights. A lot of what we've been doing is creating costumes that are made of materials that are going to be very responsive to light and will hopefully cast some interesting effects, and I really want to see what those effects are actually going to be. So with things like the gods and the underworld, I'm not going to reveal too much, but those fabrics, I'm just really excited to see how the different designs are all going to kind of come together. And then getting in the space, just generally seeing everything that everyone's been working on in all its glory.
I think what I'm most excited about is seeing like the other groups' performances as well, and seeing how they all fit together in the whole story. Because I've been in rehearsals and I've seen a lot of our groups, and looking so good, and obviously I could say I'm really excited to see it all finally come together, because like I'm really excited to see all the design elements come together, because like obviously I've heard the sound and I've seen the lighting, but I've never and I've seen the acting, but I've never seen the sound and the light and the acting all come together at once. So obviously I'm really excited for that, but I'm really excited for that like across the whole year group as well, and to see everyone else's work. And yeah, I just think it's going to be great, because I've been in the workshop with the other designers, and I've seen the sets that they've been working on, and I saw some images from the first groups get in, and their set looked amazing. So yeah, I'm just really, really excited to see it all come together.
Like a whoosh. Yeah, at the minute it's like boom, but and it's like
Yeah, just more of
it's like you're so cheeky, you know. And
how much fun are we having?
So much fun!
go, Sam, go!